All right, Flannel, let's get into it. Brad Holmes makes the deal. He trades a third-round pick to the Dallas Cowboys for their first-round pick and actually was able to move up into the draft to get Terrion Arnold. And, Flannel, when you look at it, just kind of moving from where they moved from 29 on down to 24. But again, the total package, because I feel like it's being misrepresented a little bit, they went from 29 to 24. They gave up a third-round pick. The Lions got back a seventh-round pick. So that's the total trade value. In a day and age, by the way, where more sixth- and seventh-round picks are playing ever in the history of the NFL, the draft chart says maybe it was a bit of an overpay, and get your thoughts in there in the Woodward Sports chat thread. But, Flannel, I'll say this. Like, for the draft chart people, which we use it as a tool, I just think you look at it from the standpoint of they had a chance to get the best corner in the draft, and they wanted to make sure that they got it done. That was their spot.
Yeah, and I just want to get this out of the way so that people don't accuse me of flip-flopping. Terrion Arnold wasn't my favorite corner of the ones available. However, Brad Holmes has forgotten way more about football than I'll ever know. So I'm going to choose to support and look at the things I like about Terrion Arnold, because there certainly are many, and he certainly has a high upside. My thought process with it all is that this cornerback room, as constructed before Terrion Arnold was added to the picture, was the type of cornerback room, although not terrible, and although there is some promise if a lot of things go right, could actually prevent this team from reaching their ceiling and winning the Super Bowl. And that's why I'm glad that they got Terrion Arnold. I think Brad Holmes understands that things are a little bit different when you have to pay an Amon-Ra St. Brown and pay a Penei Sewell and presumably pay Jared Goff. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad he did it. I'm glad he made the deals that he did. But there are the part of the GMing job that Brad Holmes is going to have to adjust to now is all of these great draft picks that he's made, who he keeps, who he pays, and it's going to make things a little harder moving forward, I think, to maintain sustained success, because all of those rookie contracts are phenomenal, but they're not always going to be able to be on rookie contracts. So I think, to me, it's very imperative that the Lions realize, and I think they do, that they could win the Super Bowl this year. Their Super Bowl window is now, and Terrion Arnold, I think he could be an upgrade over what they have. As I've said with their secondary room, there's a lot of questions. Carlton Davis, can he play 17 games? Recent history says no. Amik Robertson, is he a 17-game outside starter? Probably not. Emmanuel Mosley, will he ever effectively be an NFL player again? Who knows? 2 ACLs is tough. Kindle Vildor is Kindle Vildor. Brian Branch is more of a slot guy. So getting a guy like Terrion Arnold, who I'm not going to say that he shut down half the field, but when he was tested, I will give him this. When he was tested,
rose to the occasion.
He made more plays than he gave up. Did he give up a few? Did he get burned a few more times than I would like? Sure.
And Flannel, right there, yes. I'm going to cut you off for just 1 second. Like the whole Cooper DeJean crowd, right? They need to understand that. Because when you are playing in the SEC, look at the quarterbacks that are in the SEC. It's a different football game than what you see up here in the Big Ten. It just is. So when you look at it from that perspective, he's not sitting there hiding in his zone. Mm-hmm. He's a cornerback for Alabama, going up against arguably the best conference quarterbacks in college football on a day in, week out basis. You are going to give up plays when you are on the island. You just are. But, as you said, that's the key. He took away more than he gave up.
Out of all the cornerbacks in this draft, in terms of what they did this year, Terrion Arnold had the most interceptions. He had the most, I would say, ball-hawking moments this year. And that's one of the important characteristics. An interception and taking the football away is one of the most important things you can do on defense. Probably the most important thing. So that's why some of his, I would say, times where he was burned, he more than made up for it. And another thing about Terrion Arnold, and I just want to get this out there really, really quickly, because everybody knows I'm a big PFF guy, and I've also watched a lot of Alabama games. Metrically, there's not a cornerback in this draft that is better graded as a run defender. And you see when you watch him, he's not afraid to stick his nose in there and make some tackles and just like lay the wood. And here's the thing about the Lions defense, and I know I'm being a little long-winded, but even last year, even with some guys who struggled at other aspects, you had many players who were abnormally high graded as run defenders versus what else they did.
They were one of, if not the best rush defense in the National Football League. Like, that's a thing.
Yes, Jack Campbell was, Derek Barnes was, Brian Branch was, Kirby Joseph, Kendall Vildor, John Kaminsky, Josh Pascal, Aleem McNeil. These are all guys that were higher graded as run defenders than anything else that they did. And it all added up to an elite run defense. So do I think that played a role in Brad Holmes making that pick? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Well, and it does play a role in his value.
Absolutely it does.
And I do want to shout out this too. Our Lions beat reporter / sound guy today, Matt Broder. You look, I know you took some heat on social media from some folks, but you stood on business. You got your reports. You ran with it. You trusted the people you talked to, and look at to quote Al Pacino in Scarface. Look at you now, man. you were one of the few in this town that had it and had it right. So kudos to you.
Appreciate that. It's such a perfect fit from the player and the person standpoint. Once it gets past 18, which was that number where I put, that's where the Lions may consider moving up and going and getting him. The value he becomes the BPA. And a position of need at 24.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you, too, because you helped me out with that last night when I was doing the show, because once I got to 18, that's when I kind of dropped the draft chart into the show, and we started cooking, and we had hey, to get to 18, you got to give up a second. You going to do it? And the people, remember the people were split?
Yeah, they were.
They were split. But when you get to 20, 21, 22, that price falls to a third. And that was when, and that's why, like, through all this, right? With Brad Holmes, I honestly believe this, and I don't know. I haven't talked to him. He had a line in the sand where he was prepared to go in. He had his guy circled. He had his price circled, and that's where it was. And he got both of them. And when the time was there, it struck. Brent Keach says, slight overpay, but we also got the best corner, so I can't hate it. CT Squid, F the chart. We got our future CB1. MPWMU, Arnold is mid. Mitchell was the pick. MPWMU, Quiniam Mitchell. Look.
Uh-oh. Y'all done got him started.
And I didn't do this.
Yep.
For the record.
Get your shit off.
When I watch film and I see him grabbing every MAC wide receiver on every clip that I see of him making plays, and the only picks I see are him picking off Rocky Lombardi, I'm sorry, WMU. It doesn't do it for me. No disrespect to the MAC. The MAC, I like MAC football. There's no bigger champion for Tuesday night MACtion than me. I love it. I'm in, bro. Like, it's not hate. I'm just telling you what I saw, man, because that's what I saw. And I saw the games just like Sam Flannel saw the games. The Terrion Arnold move, that was the play. And it's Brad Holmes' guy. So immediately I'm in. But real quick, just for S's and G's, man, let's take a look at the draft chart then, shall we?
Yeah.
Because from where Detroit was at 29, there's about 100 point difference in quote value. And guys, remember, this isn't the Bible. This isn't Sam's PFF. I'm not going to live on I'm not going to die on the sword for this. It's just a guideline to give you a feel. And it was a very, very fun tool last night to work with. The Lions pick in the third round, which was 73 overall that they traded, right? Had a 225 point value rating to it. Remember, I think that's why the Cowboys threw in the seventh. Mm-hmm. It's like seventh round picks they have no value on the draft chart. I think the draft chart's outdated though for that, because check the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl winning roster and tell me that 6th and 7th round picks don't matter.
Pacheco. Yeah.
But I digress. I move on. So was it a little bit of a slight overpay? The chart, yes. But how about this, guys? Humor me for a minute here. Broder, where do the people think that Terrion Arnold was going to go? For real.
Top 14.
Top 14.
Some top 12.
So I'll humor me. I'll say 15, right? Here's where it changes. And here's why it's not a slight overpay to me or I think to Brad Holmes. If you got your number 15 guy in the draft, and again, you consult the chart, Lions pick value 640, the number 15 pick, Indianapolis, 1,050. Now it becomes a value with what they did. You see, and this is nuance I try to work with you on, Sam Flannel. Like when you tell me AD's great, and then I look at him at the podium yesterday, just looking disinterested. Looked like he had a Soroki's T-shirt on, for Christ's sake. But anyway, here's the nuance of it, Flannel. He's operating in that space where I just got the 15th best prospect in this draft, and it fell to me, and I got it. I bet this, and I'll never know. I bet you Brad Holmes thinks he got a value to the draft chart people.
Of course, I'm sure he was surprised that Terrion Arnold fell. Honestly, if you're Brad Holmes, he probably had some backup plans because, as you said, Broder,
he had a backup plan to the backup plan. Make no mistake.
100%, because banking on Terrion Arnold to fall that far, that's not a winning move. However, he actually did.
Yeah.
And the Lions actually got him. The cornerback, like I said before, the position that I think was the weakest on the team in terms of preventing them from winning the Super Bowl this year was the cornerback position. And they just upgraded. And Terrion Arnold's the type of guy that, you know what I think about him? I think Terrion Arnold is the type of cornerback, given his upside, given his athleticism, but still some technique traits that you'd want to clean up a little bit. I'm thinking that a guy like Aaron Glenn, who was a former defensive back in the NFL, is looking at a guy like Terrion Arnold and just being like, I can mold this guy. I can sure up this guy's technique and make him that Pro Bowl cornerback one someday. Because he's got so much ability. They've been
waiting for him since they didn't take Devon Witherspoon at 6 last year.
Pretty
Since
much.
he went to the Seahawks, he was like, all right, I'm getting Gibbs and I'm getting Arnold next year. I maybe not that much of a stretch.
I'm getting N. Arnold next year.
Exactly. And they paid 2 third-rounders for their starting outside corners. That's a pretty good value to me.
No doubt about it. WoodwardSports.com chat thread, jump into there. DNC ENT, bro, your draft chart is way off. It's not close to accurate. DNC ENT, show me your chart then. Where you have the chart Bible then, right? Like this is Corinthians, round 1. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, DNC ENT, there is no 100% accurate draft chart. It's an idea. And by the way, it seemed accurate as hell last night. KG, you were doing the show.
Yeah.
We had it play by play.
It's more accurate than a lot of people's mock drafts.
That's what. Thank you.
I got you.
Thank you for that.
You know I got you.
We kind of predicted this, did we not?
We
Go
did.
back and watch the show.
We did.
Almost 20,000 of you watched it last night. Go back and watch the clips. We kind of, Broder brought this to the forefront.
Yeah.
I just kind of ran with it from there. But again, that's like when I talk about the financials, Flannel. It gives you a rough estimate of a direction. And that's what it was. Once your eyes are open to it, you can never unsee it.
I was just going to say that those draft charts, they remind me a bit of a SPOTRAC average annual value, or like estimated average annual value, or estimated value. It's the best guideline you have up until you see what actually happens. Sometimes they're way off, but sometimes they're spot on. And I would say more often than not, they're pretty accurate gauges, or at least stuff that's worthy to start conversations that aren't going to be outlandish. So yeah, I definitely appreciate your use of that, especially given the fact that the Lions actually did trade up.